I met George, Brandon, and Michael in the late 80s, early 90s. About the time we started to allow snowboarding on the mountain, they came to the mountain and started to work for me. They were the first 3 certified snowboard instructors for me. It wasn't until 1997 that we had the American Association of Snowboard Instructors, so they all came in, much to their chagrin, as professional ski instructors of America, but they were snowboard instructors. The snowboard shop started a couple years after they all were here and saw a need for better rentals than we were providing at the resort, and also for retail.
That's how Experience Snowboards started. There was only a handful of snowboarders there. Most people who saw a snowboard said, "What is that thing on your feet?" So no one really knew what it was. So those of us who were snowboarding ended up snowboarding together. That's how I met George. He and I started riding together all the time. One day on a chairlift, we were talking about how there was just nowhere to get the equipment we needed. The bindings were horrible back in those days. We broke stuff constantly. And that's when we decided we should really start our own snowboard shop, just to kind of support our own habit.
I worked for Never Summer Snowboards. I used to be the independent rep. I knew Experience was for my research, they were the guys in Angel Fire.
I believe Experience Snowboards was the first exclusive snowboard shop in New Mexico.
It was interesting. Every year they're working on what sort of boards and equipment to bring in, what sort of technologies to pursue. Being able to have something like those guys in New Mexico and their experience and expertise, those guys were definitely the place to go.
I had met George, Michael Johnstone, and Brandon when they had the Experience Snowboard shop in Angel Fire. And we would go over there to snowboard and check out their cool shop because they sold snowboard stuff. And they had the free Taos stickers, and we were like, wow, this is awesome. Bought a lot of stickers and stomp pads and t-shirts, vests. They had all kinds of merch for the free Taos campaign.
George and I started talking about a name. I came up with Experience Snowboards. I was a big Jimi Hendrix fan, and so Are You Experienced? I felt like that kind of tied into with the theme of what we were doing. People hadn't experienced snowboarding yet, and we wanted them to experience snowboard. So I had thrown that name to George one day, and he loved it. We just decided to go with it.
The guys that were the mentors to the youth there, they were always there in the shop. There was like all hands on deck all the time. And they're there tuning their boards. They're there, selling a jacket, making sure that the kids that are the quote unquote shop groms have something to do to keep them active. They really put snowboarding on the map in New Mexico.
As a kid, when I used to travel up there and compete, they were the ones in charge. They started the contests. They were the first ones to get the USASA going. It was really fun. I had a blast going out there and going to their events and competing against George. And they really started the scene.
We definitely noticed at one point parents would come in and said, "Oh, my kid's looking up to you. My kid wants to come in here and help." And all of a sudden we're starting to turn into role models, and that kind of just spiraled out from there into doing events and sponsoring things and the team and all the other stuff we did that I think ended up being pretty impactful. But at the time, it just something that we loved and wanted to do and wanted to share it.
They made people snowboarders. They were instrumental in getting the USASA to come to Angel Fire, which, if you look at where the nationals are typically held, it's usually at a big mountain.
Brandon and George and Michael, they got the USASA Nationals here, I believe it was 2004.
My ties with the USASA helped there to get the Snowboard Nationals because I was already a series director. The staff of the mountain were just all about doing the Snowboard Nationals. It was a huge deal, and they poured a ton of energy and time and resources into making it happen. Nothing would have happened without just this massive effort from the ski area.
They pulled it off, and I think that was really the tipping point for snowboarding in this state. From that point on, snowboarding grew exponentially. In those days, we would run out of snowboards at the rental shop, and the demand was really, really high. And I put a lot of that on the Experience boys.
They really wanted to push snowboarding and encourage the kids to get out there, have a fun, good time. And they truly enjoyed being out there themselves.
Taos.
Out of those times, tuning snowboards and selling snowboards really arose that whole mantra of free Taos and opening up snowboarding to the masses. There were still quite a few resorts across the country that didn't allow snowboarding. They contacted Transworld Snowboarding and started a campaign to open up snowboarding in places like Alta, Deer Valley, and obviously Taos.
Free Taos came about just because we always felt it was unfair that we couldn't snowboard at Taos. We used to hike up there pre and post season, so we knew it wasn't a terrain issue. We just were upset about it. Back in those days, you'd see a lot of free Tibet bumper stickers. One day I had mentioned we should do like a free Taos sticker, like a free Tibet, kind of model it after that.
I got to hear the story from George and Michael when they first got the free tacos stickers too, that it was a misprint. They were sitting there, on the phone with the guys trying to figure out, what had happened, why did they get this misprint, and it was supposed to be free Taos. And there was some kid from the village that came in and like, free tacos, cool, can I have one? And they're like, okay, sure.
Whoever their printer was saw free Taos and had never heard of it, obviously, and thought it was a typo, so they spelled it free Tacos. We got these thousands of stickers that said free tacos. Mike instantly was like, we got to burn these, we got to toss these. And George said, I've already given a couple hundred of them out. So we just ran with it.
They brought awareness to outside of the state of New Mexico. I mean, free Taos stickers were in Colorado, they were all over the place. And at the time I was in a band with Cree Maye. We were the Groove Junkies, and we wrote songs about snowboarding in Taos. We had a petition going for people, to sign the petition to allow snowboarding at Taos. The time when I carved out free Taos on the mountain was the mid-90s, and we were really trying to promote allowing snowboarding in Taos because we love to do it. We wanted our friends who like to snowboard to come here and enjoy with us. So we were kind of torch bearers of the campaign that George, Michael, and Brandon started with the free Taos movement.
One evening, George calls me and says, it's happening. And he tells me, the Taos is finally going to open up and what the date is. There was just this huge crowd of people that were all there, and George was so excited, he woke up giddy as a kid, super early, ready for this to happen.
It's not hard to understand why, when snowboarding is discussed in the state of New Mexico and in Colorado in general, why those three names come up. They brought the magic, and they changed snow sports in New Mexico.
I would tell them thank you for welcoming me down there, honestly, because it was some of my most cherished times as a road rep. What an amazing crew, and who wouldn't want to be around that, They were just good human beings.
I think I'd tell George and Michael how very much I and everyone miss them. Their passing was very difficult.
Party on, guys. I know you're up there in heaven, riding the powder up in the clouds. I just want to thank them for everything they did for the sport and for Taos, and their campaign kicked off a huge movement.
Well, just, the amount of youth and adults and people that they have impacted, not just in New Mexico, but, definitely in the whole world.
I mean, Mike and I were best friends since high school. Like I said, we were all kind of family. We spent a lot of time together, a lot of time talking. I don't know that we'd have a lot more to say other than, where's your gear? Where are we going? Who's driving? Let's go back to doing what we do, and let's do a trip somewhere. So George and I, when I moved, we kind of lost touch for a while. George and Mike and I all started talking again. Honestly, I had an email from 2 weeks before George's accident where, he and I were talking about planning a trip for that following winter. So I think we'd start right back off from where we were, and, let's get together. Let's go snowboard together again.
Another beautiful day in George Medina's life. Wish you were here.